The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Hello and welcome into episode 30 of our podcast, Mossy Creek Conversations. I'm the voice of the Eagles, Adam Cavalier, and today pleased to be joined by two-time All-American offensive lineman and recently minted Carson-Newman Hall of Famer, Dwight Wilson. Dwight, thanks so much for taking some time and joining us on the podcast. Wanted to do this after your Hall of Fame speech. I had to stop it after 10 minutes or so, and it felt like there was so much stuff about you that we just scratched the surface on that, for me, selfishly, I want committed to video. So and audio. I greatly appreciate you taking some time to further reminisce. I think you have a fascinating story, and for a modern day player to go from Tennessee to Wendy's to Carson-Newman feels unheard of. Can you recount how life happened that took you from the Vols to the banks of Mossy Creek, and what that means to you now, having that been in the rear view for nearly 4 decades?
Yeah, well, of course, Adam, there's some things you look back on, you probably would have did differently if you had known, if you had hindsight, if you really thought about what was going on and what you had. But sometimes you don't realize where you are because you've never been there. But like I say, I can never, ever say anything bad about my opportunity at the University of Tennessee. Yeah. And I guess as I was talking during the Hall of Fame introduction, and sometimes we experience things in life that they seem good and they are good, but they just don't bring out what you're looking to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I had reached that point, especially after I lost my father. I had every intention of remaining at the University of Tennessee, but it wasn't in my heart. And I came back to summer camp, and it just didn't feel right. And I left camp, and never thinking I'd play football again. And that's where I was in my life. I figured I can get me a manager's job and that kind of thing, and make a few $100s a year and that kind of thing, and enjoy life, continue going to school and move on. But it just so happened that my former personal coach at Tennessee, who was Jim Dyer, he actually went to work for State Farm himself as an agent. And he and Coach Sparks were great friends. And he called me and told me, I want you to meet this guy. And of course, we met as they came to Wendy's one night, and Coach Turner, Coach Dalton, all of them were there at Wendy's, and we all met. We talked a while, and I hadn't decided whether I was going to Carson-Newman or not. But during the Christmas break, I said, I've never, ever not been home at Christmas time. Mm-hmm. So I resigned at Wendy's. I went home, and I had spoken with Coach Majors and actually had committed to a meeting with him on my way back to Knoxville in January. And for some reason, I stopped in Atlanta, Georgia, went to the phone booth. Coach Sparks answered the phone, and I said, Coach, I think I'm coming to Carson-Newman. And he said, well, all right, brother. And, I told my buddies, I said, this guy is really cool. He called me brother. So, not knowing what brother he was talking about, and I wondered quite often why everybody said, well, are you going to be a preacher? Is that why you're going to Carson-Newman? And never knew what they were speaking of. But I still remember our first team meeting when I got here in '82.
Yeah.
And you had the likes of James Cofer, Terry Minor, and all those guys, Jeff Joslin.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had our first team meeting, and Boone was just a comical, crazy guy, laughed loud and everything. And Coach Park said, well, good afternoon. And during his speech, he was talking about what it meant to be an Eagle and letting us know how you can't soar like a night owl and be an eagle. And, you know, he was a little confident that, you know, the night owls go hoot, the hoot, the hoot, but the eagles, they fly, they soar. And James Cofer just sat there and he thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Listening to Coach Parks compares to owls versus eagles. You can't stay up late and out late like an owl and be an eagle. But enjoyed everything, learned a lot, met a lot of good people, good teammates, and even like I said, we were all on the same level. We didn't put anybody down because they weren't a starter, but everybody was needed to make that team work. And we had some great players.
There's so many different avenues that we could go down with you. I want to go back to the Wendy's, though. Did you expect 3-4 college coaches to walk in and court you a little bit? Or was this out of the blue?
Out of the blue. I was thinking that I would probably end up back at Tennessee again.
Yeah.
And I wasn't opposed to that. And this popped up, and out of the blue, I mean, I was on the way back to Knoxville with Coach Majors.
Yeah.
And I stopped and made a phone call and called Coach Park. I said, Coach, I think I'm coming to Carson-Newman. And I still remember, I mean, I was in some parking lot, and he was like, all right, brother, all right, brother. And so he had Butch meet me and brought me to campus, and that's how we got started.
Was it an easy decision? It feels like it was almost a whim, the phone call in Atlanta, or was it just it felt right?
It felt right. It felt, to this day, I don't know why I made that phone call, but I had some good people that helped influence me on where to go, how to get there, and what to do. But I knew Wendy's wasn't going to take me where I wanted to get to.
But Carson-Newman certainly has impacted your life.
Absolutely. Made a world of a difference in my life. Not just, you know, my physical being and growth, but it helped me so much mentally. And of course, I think everybody that goes to Carson-Newman you've met, they've always asked the question, how is your heart? And that was one of Coach Barg's favorite sayings. And initially, you didn't understand if you weren't there.
Yeah.
But, you know, how is your heart? And I talk to my kids sometimes the same today, and I ask them the same question, you know. And it's all right, Dad. But just great experience all around. Whether I would have did it now, I don't know, but I'm not disappointed with the decision that I made.
It's fascinating to me in the landscape of college athletics currently, the Dwight Wilson story of this guy started for the University of Tennessee. He's probably not coming to Carson-Newman anymore with NILs, the way the transfer portal is, which is to some degrees a shame because of the opportunities that a school like Carson-Newman can provide just from a transformative growth standpoint. So selfishly, I want there to be more Dwight Wilson transformational stories, but just the way that college athletics is, it feels like less and less.
Yes. I couldn't see it happening unless the right things fall in place. Yeah. And when I say the right things, you've got to meet somebody that loves you, someone that cares about you, someone that cares about this university, and they want to see a guy be successful. So it takes more than one person to make that really work.
Who were those other people for you that helped, aside from a random Wendy's visit from 4 random college coaches, who were those people for you that kind of steered you? Because still, even in the 1980s, a 2-year starter for an SEC school transferring to at the time an NAIA school, fairly uncommon.
Yeah. And Jim Dyer, who's deceased now.
Yeah.
He had resigned coaching the same year that I left. And he was a big, big influence on where I went, what I did. And he actually bought another one of my great, great friends who's also deceased now, Carson-Newman. And this guy was 330 pounds and he could dunk a basketball. Wore a size 10.5 shoe. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we had some of those guys. We had several transfers. Like on the offensive line, I think we had 3 offensive lineman transfers. Rick Oler, Jim Covington, McClanahan, just a bunch of guys that came from different places. Our quarterbacks, our running backs. We had a receiver from Picayune, Mississippi by the name of Stevie Dees. And absolutely phenomenal, good kids. And a lot of us didn't know what we were walking into. And, you know, we got to learn a lot about the city of Carson-Newman, visiting the dam at night and those kind of things, and just a lot of crazy, wild stuff that I won't even discuss that happened and went on here. But just a great, great university. And there was a lot of people that wanted to help you. They wanted to see this university be successful. You know, Bill Powell.
Oh, yeah.
All the coaches, I mean, just a lot of great people that wanted to see us be successful.
You alluded to the story of Ken Sparks talking about Hoot Owls and Eagles, which I can very much hear his voice coming through you in that story. Obviously, you graduated. You still follow the program. I've seen you at games plenty over the last, in my time here, the last 13 years. I think the remarkable thing about, I presume the remarkable thing about Ken Sparks, and I say presume because I don't know. I wasn't alive in 1984. I can't tell you exactly what Ken Sparks was like. But based on stories like that, based on my own witness to his personality and who he was the same person, it felt like, in 1982 when you came to Carson-Newman as he was in 2016 when he finished coaching. How often do you find yourself pointing back to things that he taught you, even as you continue in your now adult life with grown kids?
Probably on a daily basis. I mean, just a lot of good stuff. Stuff that you'll take with you forever, you'll never forget. And a lot of it was trying to do everything the right way. You know, regardless of who you were, regardless of what you accounted for, but this was a team. We were all one team, and we all made one. You make a mistake, you miss this, miss that, you might find yourself running after practice, just like the guy that didn't even show up for practice the day before, so he didn't show favoritism, but he wanted everybody to know that we're all together, one to make one.
I think of the current football team's theme of brotherhood, and I would say that is very applicable to your relationship. I'll just go back to your Hall of Fame induction. The number of tables that were there to see you get inducted was staggering. You brought up Steve Dees. Steve Dees was in the building. A ton of your teammates were in the building for that Hall of Fame induction. What have those relationships meant to you over the last 40 years?
They have meant the world to me. And I guess the most beautiful thing about it, you know, we sweated together, we worked together, we hurt together, we cried together, but we all became brothers. And of course, those are relationships that'll never end.
Yeah.
And I'm happy today to have a whole lot of those relationships. I mean, McClanahan,
Yeah.
Chuck King,
Brad Spivey, Rick Oler, Jimmy Covington.
and it's just, when you see each other, it's a beautiful thing. I remember when I was working, occasionally they'd come by my job, and 4 or 5 of them would, and we just sit around and we laugh forever until I had to run them out of the store so I could get back to work. But we had great times and great relationships. Even Coach Turner, he came by occasionally. Yeah. And of course, Mark came by occasionally, Ken Tyson. Yeah. Just a lot of those guys that are still in the area. We got to see each other a lot, and we still see and talk with each other. Rusty Cutshaw, you know, he's always telling everybody, well, I didn't get to play at Carson-Newman because I played behind a guy named Dwight Wilson. So, but, you know, just a lot of jokes, a lot of laughter, but genuine love for one another. Genuine love.
I think that love is apparent, especially here of late. For the last 3 seasons, there have been the reunions of the 40th anniversary of the '83 team, the '84, on down the line, and we'll keep doing it for the rest of the decade, I suppose, which gives all of you guys a chance to come back and showcase that camaraderie. Yes. But guys like, I think Rick Oler, Brad Spivey, Chuck King, Scott McClanahan, Jimmy Covington, I'm going to go 98% sure all of them were all-SAC selections at one time in their careers. Yeah. You were an all-SAC selection and an All-American. How did you guys make one another better on the field?
Well, I think we came in and we worked with one another, and we didn't take anything for granted. And of course, you know, I've seen some guys that didn't go hard, but these guys, they went full speed every practice all day, you know. And I had Kenny Tyson ask me once, he said, I want to be like you before I leave here. I said, what do you mean? He said, I want to be a Kodak All-American. So I said, well, you keep running like that, buddy, you're going to be well beyond the Kodak All-American. You know, just a great guy. And it makes you feel good to see that people remember you, people recognize you, but it's just a great feeling. Just like the Hall of Fame journey, introduction. I didn't realize how touching it would be until I saw all those people here just to say thanks to me, just to say that they know me. And that was a very, very warm feeling that I received from being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
It's been, what, 6 months, 5 months since that induction. Have you processed it a little bit more from the night when it happened? Yes. Does it feel a little more real?
Yes. You know, I've often thought about what are the guidelines, how do you get there, what do you do, but it's not about you, but it's what someone else thinks of you. Mm-hmm. And that made me feel very, very good. And I didn't even know that I was the first All-American offensive lineman at Carson-Newman.
Yeah.
And, but it was a good, rewarding feeling. And it made me feel really good about my journey at Carson-Newman.
When I got the job here in 2012, I'm close with Stan and Steve Cotton, who were the voices here in the 80s and early 90s. And one of the first things I think Steve told me was, I still remember Kenneth Tyson, and I remember the offensive lines that Carson-Newman produced. So that was, 30 years after he had been at Carson-Newman. He's broadcasted Marshall football for 20 some odd years at that point. And a player that still sticks out to him in the course of his now closing in on 4 decades broadcasting career is a Kenneth Tyson. So I say that to lead in, how much of Kenneth Tyson is Kenneth Tyson? How much of Kenneth Tyson is aided by the offensive lines he had blocking for him, and vice versa? Because those are some legendary, a legendary running back, one of the all-time leading rushers in Carson-Newman in sack history, aided and abetted by, depending on, from the 4 years that he was running behind him, some mean, aggressive, road grading offensive lines. How did those two work hand in hand?
You're right, Adam. In order for a running back to be successful, he does need some guys looking out for him up front. And of course, for the big uglies up front, for us to feel good about what we do, we need that dangerous runner that can break one at any time, especially in the veer offense.
Yeah.
And of course, I remember times it was a third and 22, and they run a 22 dive, and I look at Coach Turner like, are you crazy? And we pick up a first down.
Yeah.
And but they go hand in hand, but no doubt they appreciate each other, and one can't be successful without the other. But and the great thing about it, and Ken Tyson, he was just a superior hard runner.
Yeah. Early on when I got the job, you and I were chatting a little bit about where I was from before we started shooting this. I grew up on the old Weaviac, which was West Virginia Tech, Shepherd, Fairmont State. And one of my good friends was in the band at Fairmont State in the 1980s. Okay. At Fairmont State, Ken Tyson ran for 250 yards on 9 carries by halftime. And that was something that stood out to that member of Fairmont State's band after, 30 some odd years. Yes. What moments stand out for you? A particular hit, a particular play? Is there something that, a moment that hangs in your mind after all these years?
I still remember the first play against Mesa in the national championship game. And of course, the first time you hit a guy, you want to make him think about it. And I hit this linebacker, and he said, "You don't have to go so hard, man. You don't have to go so hard." And I'm like, "You're kidding me." So after that, every time I got a chance to lay the boom on this guy, I had him running before the game was over. But it's just amazing. And of course, I didn't realize maybe what kind of player I was, but you know, I love the game, and that was the only way I knew to play.
I think Mike Turner at one point told me that you could crawl under a table and put a linebacker on his backside over and over and over again. At some point when I asked him how to describe your game as a player, was it drilled into you or did it just come naturally?
Well, I remember early on they had this drill we did, and it was a set of dummies, well, metal bars across, and it was only about 3.5 feet high.
Okay.
And you had to come off the ball and you had to go under the dummies and hit the dummy at the end of the drill. So you go 5 yards in a low position and you finish the drill hitting the dummy. So that's where a lot of the low intensity came from, doing that drill every day.
Low intensity.
Yes.
Low
yes.
intensity.
They always said the low man wins.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you know, I went against some larger guys, and a lot of times I won because I was a lower guy.
I've heard the low man wins before. I've heard that plenty, but low intensity is a new one, and I like it.
Yes, bringing a punch, punch.
When did you get the sense that the 83 and 84 teams, when did you get the sense that they were special? That they
You know, really, after we won in 83, our first national championship, I actually felt like we had a better team in 82. I really did with some of the guys we had there. But we didn't get the opportunities, we didn't get the breaks that we received in 83 to make it work. Because if you remember, we were down 21-7 against Shepherd at the half. And we came back and won the game 42-21.
all by running the ball too, I'm
Yes, all by running the ball. And we were a running team. And that's where we based all of our success on. I think I remember maybe in the 83 series, I'm thinking we may have averaged close to 400 yards a game rushing.
It'd be in that neighborhood, at least I think upper 300s for sure.
380s,
Yeah.
390s in there. But we were a running team. And we had the running backs, we had the receivers, we had the material to be a running team. And that's where all our success came from, running the ball.
Obviously, you think running the ball for Carson-Newman historically, Ken Sparks is a part of that. Yes. Mike Turner's a part of that. Yes. How did Mike Turner help mold you as an offensive lineman and as a person?
Just a great guy. Believed in me. And like I say, you know, when you needed to be pushed, he pushed you. When you needed a pat on the back, he gave you a pat on the back. But overall, he showed you what you needed to do if you wanted to be successful. But even more important than that, Adam, he showed you how to do it.
Yeah. By example, or by or by encouragement.
But daggone it, gosh daggone it. Get your butt down there. Get up here again.
Heavy dose of Mike Turner encouragement.
Yes. But just great guy. And we still have a great relationship to this day, even with my family, my kids and my wife. We all love him. He and his wife. Did
you see, you know, obviously I I know the guy in multiple stages, on-air partner, former head coach, offensive coordinator. How is he different in 1982-83 compared to what you see now, or was he?
I told him, I said, Coach, if you had coached that well when I was here, I said, I probably would still be in the NFL, but turned into just one great dynamic coach. Great guy, really did. Great coach. With techniques and everything.
I think it's crazy to think about that coaching staff that stayed together for so long. Sparks, Turner, Mitchell, Deaton, on and on. How young they were at the time. And yet, that so youthful, and yet I hear others point to wisdom that they imparted that has stayed with you for your entire lives. What made that special in those moments?
Well, even now, you don't realize how close an age you were to those guys. But yet, they were able to obtain and instill and bring out the greatness in you by just teaching you good everyday rules, by why are you doing certain things? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it because you like it? Are you doing it because you want to get better? And of course, make you realize that, you know, one thing I remember often that, you know, the word PPMP. And of course, I learned that at the University of Tennessee, and Coach Majors always said that it's not PPP, it's PPMP. Perfect practice makes perfect, not practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things have stuck with me my whole life. And a lot of great coaches, and of course, the coaches at Carson-Newman they were just a great group of guys and they just help you with life in general. I mean, talked about family, talked about being together, and all those little things that are just very, very important in making it in this life, Adam. And even with my own family, you know, versus the way I was raised. Some things I changed, some things I didn't, but overall, it made you realize that what's really important in this life and the things that you need that are important to you, you need to let them know that they're important and show it to them by example.
How important was it then that all those guys practiced what they preached? How much did the family, the faith, the off-the-field aspects lead to the good performance, the perfect practice makes perfect? How influential were those other elements on the gameplay part?
Very, 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 very important. Especially, you know, during the week, are you going to loaf at practice, or are you going to get better? You know, I also talk about nothing stays the same. You either get better or you get worse, but there's nothing that stays the same. So are you going to get better, or are you going to try to stay the same, which you can't maintain if you don't strive to get better?
No, well, that's a wise note. That's a wise note. I want to talk about life for you, and you alluded to it in your Hall of Fame induction. Life hasn't been easy. You know, you lost your legs, eyesight isn't what it used to be, and yet I think the exact quote, "I'm still blessed." How did you develop that attitude through the adversity that you have faced?
Well, one of my best friends, a guy named Steve Davis, he talks to me quite often, but he always said, me, D, don't quit. You got to keep moving. And he's lost some close friends that went through adversity in their life, and some of them sort of laid down and quit. But every time I talk to him, that's the same message that he gives me: don't quit. And of course, just with my religious belief, I see people that aren't as bad a position. They're not in the same position I am, but I've seen people also that are in a worse position than I am. And so I yet have things to be thankful for. I mean, I yet have a wife that stands beside me. I yet have children that pretend to love me if they don't really love me. I've got 7, 8 grandkids that love me, and I've got a church family, a pastor, just a lot of people that genuinely reach out and show me love on a daily basis. A lot of love that a lot of people would love to receive, regardless of what position they're in. But there's more to life than what I'm living, but yet I can live this part of my life and try to be a success at it. And one thing I won't ever do, I don't complain. I'm not a big complaining guy, and I don't like to hear a lot of complaining, but you know, we're all blessed in our own way, and we have a lot to be thankful for, regardless of what the situation is.
You alluded to something there. You made a tongue-in-cheek reference to your kids and whether or not they love you. I would say it's 100, and you were joking, I could see it, but they've got grandkids. So, or you've got grandkids, which means they have kids, which means they have to know how much you love them, because I don't think you can fully appreciate the love that your parents poured into you until you experience that love by having children of your own, because truly there's nothing like it. How did you show the love for your kids and know that, it probably doesn't make much of a difference until they're presented that same love back to them when they have their own children? Right.
Well, one thing I admire greatly about both of my kids, one is 38, one is 31, but both of them love their children. And they don't just love them by saying it, but they spend a lot of good quality time with their kids. They try to be a great example in front of their kids, and that is so touching to me that sometimes people say things, but their actions really don't show what they're saying. But I'm just tremendously proud of these guys for loving their families and yet continuing to love their mother and father also.
It's incredible that happens from a man that also said in his Hall of Fame induction speech, "I love violence." Those two things side by side, it's beautiful. It's beautiful that you can turn that off from the football field and be a father and grandfather. Love and violence. The Dwight Wilson story, the biography writes itself.
And one thing I like to say about that also, in love and violence, but sometimes you're so right in saying that sometimes some things you have to turn off.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's time to turn things on. And of course, in this game of football, you know when it's time to go. Mm-hmm. You know when the clock is ticking and the scoreboard is not where we want it to be. You've got to turn it on and you got to give more. And what's great about that is you never want to leave anything on the field. I mean, you want to give all you got while you have a chance to give it.
I think that's probably true in life as well. It's amazing the lessons that you can pull from time, not just football, pick any sport, that are then applicable to life itself. And there, I think you hit the nail on the head. There are times where in your home, pick your venue, you got to turn it on a little bit extra and push a little bit more, even though it might be difficult. And that those lessons can stem from, I will borrow the Ken Sparksism, a silly little game like football.
Yes, yes. You know, and quite often, we discuss money and things like that, and I tell them so many times it's not important how much money you can make, but it's more important of how much of that money can you keep. Do you value what you make? Mm-hmm. Do you value what you have? Do you spend it wisely? Do you give it wisely? That's more important than what you make, because you can make $1 million a year and be a man living week to week.
Yeah.
Whereas there's people on minimum wage that have budgeted themselves that they don't have to look week to week, but they're able to use what they have in a wise manner.
I told you as we were coming into the building that I wanted to do this interview because it was apparent the wisdom that you had from the Hall of Fame induction, and it felt criminal to not impart that to others from some platform. And you fired back with a joke that you're not wise, and I don't believe it. So I have to put you down here and pin you down and say, where did you develop this wisdom? Was it just life happening? Because every piece of advice that you've given throughout this, I think, is something that is important probably to somebody listening or watching this for the first time. How did you come to that?
Well, I think my largest influence probably came from my mother. I came from a two-parent home, but my mother instilled a lot of stuff in me. You know, sometimes you fear some parents with the fear of love, knowing that if you stopped by the store and you took a penny cookie from the cookie jar, and the guy called your mother and told you that he stole a cookie, you were gonna be in some serious trouble. And so my mother, she actually put real fear in me to always try and do the right thing. And I saw guys grow up and they weren't afraid to steal, they weren't afraid to rob, but my mother told me if I even hung with those guys, I was gonna be just as guilty as they were. But my mother put a lot of fear in me to always try and do the right thing and speak to people appropriately in a kind manner, especially my elders.
Having gotten that message then from her, was it easier to receive the message when you got here of do the right thing from a Ken Sparks on down the line?
Yes, and of course, you know, if you're an athlete, that's instilled in you at an early age.
Yeah.
You know, especially giving your all while you're on the field, and you don't understand that initially as an athlete. You know, sometimes you're gonna loaf. Sometimes you may take a play off. But once you get the real gist of what that is, that makes you not want to be a loafer. That makes you not want to take a play off, but that makes you want to do the best that you can every play that you're on the field.
How much of that, you know, one of the things that I'll always turn back to is a life lesson from Ken Sparks. maximizing yourself is one of the most God-honoring things. You started nodding before the word maximizing was even out of my mouth. That's one of the most God-honoring things that one can do. How does that impact? How did that impact your life? It feels like it's something that you've lived out.
Well, you know, I've met different people in this life on the football field, off the football field, but nobody owes you anything, regardless of where you came from, regardless of what you may have done, regardless of how good you thought you were or how good you think you are, but nobody in this life owes you anything. So it's up to us as individuals to go out and make happen what we're seeking to make happen. And sometimes it's through other individuals, sometimes it's through what we've been taught, and most of all, it's where do we want to be? What do we want to get? And what have we learned in this life that's going to help us get there by being true to what we've learned?
Dwight, that's as good of a note to end on as any. That's the pull quote. That's the thing that I hope people get from this. I greatly appreciate you taking some time out of your day and joining me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Adam.
That is Carson-Newman Hall of Famer Dwight Wilson. On the voice of the Eagles, Adam Cavalier. This has been another Mossy Creek Conversation. Thanks for joining us.